welcome to Flashback, a look at stories from years gone by. The year was 1989, Prince Rupert Sea Fest. What more is there to know? The town's ports were filled with boats and large crowds gathered for the event. But a special treat, not one but 5 military vessels floated into the harbor, many of those filled with student sailors, those who watched close by as Navy captains showed them the ropes.
These wooden-hulled Navy ships were once minesweepers, but today they're used for training junior officers and other Navy sailors. 5 of the vessels from the 1st Division Canadian Training Squadron based in Esquimalt visited Prince Rupert during Seafest. All 5, including our host, the HMCS Cowichan, were launched in 1956 or 57 as minesweepers, but they've since had their minesweeping equipment removed. The ships are each about 50 meters long and have a complement of 4 officers and 28 crew, and up to 9 students. Those student officers helped guide the vessels out of Prince Rupert Harbor at the beginning of our tour. They've already been through months of training under the eye of training officer Don Cameron, and they're gradually getting hands-on experience aboard these vessels.
Well, as soon as they join the armed forces through the various recruiting centers across Canada, they're sent to Chilliwack, BC for a basic officer training, which lasts about 13 weeks, and where they're taught how to salute and how to march and how to generally be a military officer. And after that they go and get a second language. They complete second language training in either French or English, and before they finally come to the Naval Officer Training Center for their naval indoctrination.
Now, what are you teaching them once they get aboard this ship?
I'm teaching them the basics of navigation and how to be a good officer on the bridge, that is, the officer that's in charge of driving the ship from place to place.
And what kind of things do they have to learn to be able to do that?
Well, they tell you that they have to learn how to stay up very late at night doing all their extra work, but they have to learn how to be very precise in their navigation and how to keep the ship safe generally when the captain's below and when we're in strange, unfamiliar waters.
The student officers took a back seat to the Cowichan's regular crew for the next stage of our tour. Once the squadron was in more open water outside the harbor, the students watched as the regular crew put the ships through a complicated series of officer of the watch maneuvers, showing off the vessel's capabilities and the sailors' navigational skills.
The reason we do these officer of the watch maneuvers is to teach the young officers how to handle a ship in formation. Because of course, when they go off to join their operational destroyers, they're going to be involved in operations with with Canadian units and with NATO units and American units. In fact, navies from all over the world. And when we deploy, depending upon the situation, you've got different types of formations that the ships have got to go in, and it changes all the time. It's not static, and they've got to know how to get the ship from point A to point B safely, and this is the best way to do it.
These maneuvers are precise, with the ships just 300 yards apart or less. That requires a very strict procedure.
Every day we go to sea, one ship is in charge of all 5 ships. Today it's Shiller, which is the ship ahead of us, and what she'll do is send out a tactical signal to us, in fact to all ships, saying that I have a maneuver I want you to do, and it's received by Matthew Mandrage, who's the chief yeoman of signals on board the ship. He writes it down. He'll then explain it to the officer of the watch in English, breaking down the tactical signal, and once everybody understands the signal, in most cases, once everybody understands the signal, then a few seconds later there'll be a signal come across which is stand by execute, which means go, and everybody goes to the next station.
Signal executed, sir. Ourselves and Fundy will exchange stations. Fundy will move astern of Cowichan. Both ships then proceed to their new station. When in station, guide will bear 045 at 300 yards.
Range to guide 475 yards.
Alpha 7 Charlie, execute to follow, break. Station Juliet, call sign 4 Romeo 2.
There are certainly some risks involved, and there have been problems in the past, but it's a risk that we deem is worth taking because it gives a lot of training value to be that close together. Sometimes the captain has to step in and do a fairly radical maneuver to get the ship out of a dangerous spot. But generally they're fairly safe, and the students really learn from being that close together.
These vessels have an unusual feature that makes them especially tricky to maneuver. Timing is critical because of an inflatable clutch. In fact, the captain won't let anyone else call the orders when the vessel is pulling alongside a dock.
The minimum speed of the ship, not the maximum speed, the minimum speed is 9 knots, and that's got to do with the type of engine and clutching arrangements that the ship has, and it's a direct drive system, and it has an air clutch, which means that if you want to go from a head to a stern, you've got to pause about 10 seconds and hope that you weren't coming in too fast on alongside on a jetty. But as I guess you saw today, they're very maneuverable ships, and they're a lot of fun to drive, and they're easy to once you get the hang of the clutch system, they're pretty easy to drive as well.
The design of these ships also makes them a bit uncomfortable in rough weather.
Actually, it was a little bit lumpy when we came up and crossed Queen Charlotte Strait on Monday. They're very stable ships, very seaworthy ships, but they're also very lively ships in any kind of a seaway. If the winds come up, they tend to pitch quite a bit and roll quite a bit, and if you're not used to the motion, it's a little bit uncomfortable for the first day or two out.
The student officers agree there are many challenges aboard these ships.
Challenge, you name it, you got it. There's all kinds of challenge, like there's a very narrow channel passing, navigating all along the coast. There's man overboard exercise. There's steering gear breakdown exercise. You can have engine room emergency, all kinds. Those are part of training. But when you're navigating or part of the officer to watch on top of the bridge, you don't know when the CDO or the CO or whoever got called an emergency by phone. So you're there on the bridge if that happened. You don't know if it's an exercise or for real, so you have to react in 20 seconds.
In fact, our tour was punctuated by such an emergency drill, a man overboard.
Seaboats manned and ready.
Launch the seaboat, launch the seaboat. Go ahead, boat engine. Go ahead, boat engine. Squadron 500, repeat 74 on, sir. Very good.
Plenty of adrenaline is pumped aboard these vessels at times like this, but there are also quieter, more routine days. These students have been aboard just a couple of weeks. That's not a long tour at sea for many sailors, but it's a good taste of the Navy life.
There are sometimes the life is a little tougher than sometimes somewhere else. Depends on the weather, really. If the weather is good, the life will be good. If the weather is not too good, the bad weather is like rain, stuff like this, morale is pretty down, and then you have to be near the guys that try to put some joke in, stuff like this, to put all the guys happy around. And it's teamwork. Everybody, we're 8 officers under training here, and it's a very good crew there. Everybody tries to help each other and doing works and everything. It's a good life so far.
It's not just a good life for men in the Navy these days. There are 2 women receiving officer training aboard the Cowichan.
The ships have had women on board now for, I guess, about a year and a half, and myself and one of the other minesweepers, the Thunder, are carrying women on board, junior officers, female junior officers on board.
Any special arrangements made for that?
Well, we had to do a few minor modifications to our mess deck, but not really an awful lot. Obviously, we had to arrange the mess deck so that there were separate male and female accommodations. But no, not really. Other than that, the messing is the same, and there's no difference between the training of the males and the females.
The training squadron stop in Prince Rupert was a welcome change of pace and a bit of a rest for the crew members and students. But Seafest was just part of the way through the ship's journey.
Well, we left Esquimalt, which is our home base near Victoria, at the end of May, and we went to New Westminster for a weekend, and then we picked our way up the coast. We spent last weekend in Port Hardy, and this weekend, of course, we're in Prince Rupert for the Prince Rupert Seafest. On Monday morning, we sail across for the Queen Charlottes, and we'll operate in the Queen Charlottes for about a little less than a week. Then we're going to nip down to the northern Vancouver Island area, and we'll make our way home via the west coast of Vancouver Island and pop into a few of the small ports along the west coast.
And when the students get home, there's more work ahead of them.
So when they complete their training here, they receive what's called a certificate of competency. And after some further training in destroyers, they'll receive what's called a bridge watchkeeping ticket, which means that the captain of their ship has said that they're qualified to stand a watch by themselves on the bridge of a destroyer. So that's what they're working for eventually.
The student officers on board have various goals for their careers in the Navy. Some of the observers on our tour from Prince Rupert also have their sights set on a life at sea. They watch the action on board with keen interest.
The thing I found interesting here was that how all the equipment on here worked and how the ship was run.
You plan to join the Navy?
Yeah, I do.
What kind of a position would you like to see yourself in?
I don't know, I guess I'd like to be a captain of a ship, I guess.
These sea cadets have plenty of opportunities. The 1st Division Canadian Training Squadron sails year-round, training junior officers and providing advanced naval courses for officers already working in the Navy.